Good afternoon. So I'm really pleased to be joined this afternoon by Joshna Thakrar. Joshna, thank you so much for giving up your time. I know we've got a really exciting story to kind of to hear about, but thank you. I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you for having me on board this recording. I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. So for people listening, it would be useful just to give a little bit of context. So you're a really senior HR professional. You said you had a global career, and you weren't kidding. The list of countries that you've worked in is the most extensive I think I've ever seen. I think you've worked in pretty much every continent, most countries within it, and you've got a really diverse sort of HR background, sort of chief people officer level, but a particular expertise that I could see in terms of companies who are either restructuring or going through significant transformation. And again, very diverse in terms of the sector background, but particular strength with all things financial services and telecoms as well. So that hopefully gives a bit of a context for people listening. You've worked for companies such as Vodafone, HSBC, American Express, huge, big global corporations. And what we're going to do this afternoon is just talk a bit about your story. And I think you've got a really interesting story. So maybe let's start at the beginning. And what led you into the career in HR in the first place?
So let me share. I started as a commercial banker. So I did my degree in engineering. For an Asian or woman or girl at the time, engineering just wasn't on the radar. It was mainly it's accountant, pharmacists, doctors. I was my grandpa's favorite, and it was him who helped me and allowed me to do what I wanted to do, and that was be a rebel and not do what my parents wanted me to do. So I started my degree in engineering. I wasn't able to get a job because back in 80s, you just didn't have that many women in engineering. Engineering field that I chose was electrical. I did well. The head for electrical engineering at Kingston couldn't even understand why an Asian female would want to do engineering. But anyway, there you go. I did that. I completed. During my summer holidays and Easter, Christmas, always worked for Barclays Bank. So I called myself a Barclays child, and more to come on that. After university, it was either I continue and do a master's in another topic, but as confused.com as I was then, wanted to be a rebel, I was rather lost. My office manager during my summer internship said, would you like to join a accelerated graduate training program? And I said, tell me more. I got more information, got accepted on the program. Within 18 months, I was the youngest branch manager. So I literally flew through. So that was my commercial banking. I did my Institute of Bankers, everything. Now, how did I end up in HR? From engineering degree to banking, I was still confused, didn't know what I wanted. Very young, very enthusiastic. The bank then invested in me and said, what do you want to do? Whilst going through that process, I ended up in FX. Again, back in 80s, FX is not where women would have been. But I tried that and I got a taste of it. And I thought, let's go through this psychometrics process, see where this takes me. And lucky for me, the bank invested in me and they got me to do all sorts of assessments. I was out for 2 days. Outcome of that was I should be working with people, training, PR, marketing, and I thought the HR side of it it's my great passion for helping organizations. I was quite lucky to have somebody take me under their wing and guide me and coach me. So I thought helping organizations and individuals reach their full potential. So mine was that office manager who took an interest in me. And then I became the youngest branch manager of where he was working. So early in my career, I saw how impactful good people practices could be in creating and engaging high-performing teams. I was just fascinated by the workforce dynamics within Barclays at the time. And the organization behavior aspect of it. So I love to shape the company culture. You know, you talked about my M&A transformation. I've done a lot of work in M&A. I've written my own M&A books as well, but I've not published it. So HR allows me to combine my interest in business strategy, psychology, talent development, and making that real difference in what you do. So it's not just sitting in the office, getting stuff done, bringing people in. It's partnering with the business. How does this work, and what does good look like? Does that make sense?
It really does, and it's really lovely to hear that it wasn't a straightforward path necessarily. You recognise that the engineering or initially medicine wasn't for you, and that then engineering wasn't for you, and you were lucky enough to have someone who was willing to support you both in your family and your grandpa, and obviously then in the branch manager who took the interest in you and helped you on the way. And we all need that as we're kind of progressing in our career, and hopefully that'll be reassuring to people who are kind of still trying to find their way, that it's there's time, and there's always people there you can reach out to mentors and people for help. You mentioned there about the books that you've written, and you've had a very, very impressive HR career. And I was just thinking that we've seen so much change in the workforce in recent years. I would say probably more change in recent years than maybe the last 20 years. And I wonder what has, from your professional HR kind of point of view, what has impacted organizations the most?
So look, the shift to remote working, hybrid models, has been the biggest impact on organizations. Pre-pandemic, request for flexible working was just not known. It did not exist. I mean, it was amazing to see how the HR, IT, and facilities managed to get everyone set up to work remotely. So I think the biggest impact in the recent years has been remote and hybrid working. Fundamentally, the change has impacted in every angle, from recruitment to onboarding, collaboration, management practices, company culture. But the major impacts that is the growing focus on the diversity, equity, and inclusion. How do you manage that when you've got a remote working? Well, that was an exam question. How do we manage that? But we managed it. So it can be done. And that challenge and that will continue, because people are now talking about only wanting to do 4 days. Increasing an employee's well-being and their mental health, because some people were living in a one-bedroom flat. That was their office, that was their room, that was their space. So it was very challenging. And for HR and the business to try and work and navigate through that change was huge. But we came out of it. And the need for upskilling and reskilling the workforce. How do you do that when you're working in this remote hybrid? Challenges that employee expectations. People moved from city to outskirts, and then they got a dog. Then they got used to dropping the child off at the nursery or the school, and they wanted to continue that for their work-life balances. So I think challenges from an employee engagement and retention in the current market will continue to evolve. And now this new 4-day thing, 4-day work, how will that work? And the Gen Z are coming with a clear mindset, what they want and what they don't want.
Yes, they certainly are. And it's really interesting. I'm kind of looking at the roles that we're getting at the moment, and they're pretty much fall into two camps in terms of what companies are doing. So, and it varies, obviously, I appreciate, from sector to sector as to how operational the business is. But some of our, some companies are looking to get people back in the office for a minimum of 3 days a week. And we have some companies where they are looking at different policies where either you can work 9 days out of 10, or have one Friday off a month, or every maybe 1 week a quarter, you can work remotely, but from any location. So there's all these sort of different flexible things being built in. You've got two very different extremes going on with companies. And you're right, Gen Z have a really clear view as to what they will and won't accept, to be really straight about it. So it'd be very interesting to see which way companies go in the long run.
But also, I think if we look at the real estate aspect of it, the start of the pandemic was, oh my God, estate will really be impacted badly. They haven't. New offices continues to be built. Renovation continues to happen.
Yep.
The last 3 years that I've worked, I've tried to go into the office minimum 4 days. I try and do 5 days because for me and my personal well-being, it's important to get out of the house, because by the time I get to my desk, I will have spoken to 10 people, from, leaving their house, bumping into neighbors, to somebody at the train station or on the tube, at the coffee, ordering my the coffee, then coming into the office and meeting from security to reception staff to meeting somebody at the water cooler. So for me and my well-being, that's important. And also getting my steps. I'd like to do 20 to 30,000 steps per day. So if I'm working at home, my laptop is on from 7:30.
I'm
So,
pretty impressed with that.
so for me, it's important to get out, but not everyone. And more firms are trying to get people in 5 days.
Yeah.
In my last 3 years, we had returned to office and try and organize social events to get the Gen Zs or the people in. It was always at the mid-level people got used to taking their dog out for a walk,
Yeah.
or dropping the kids off at the nursery, or wanting to leave the office early, and they felt, I come into the office, I'm doing Zoom calls all day, why would I want to do that? So that there was all of that going on. And in some organizations, and one that won't be named, I used to have walk and talk conversations, and he said, I want everybody in the office Monday and Fridays. So we made it mandatory, Mondays and Fridays, and you do one other day in the office and then the 2 days at home. And in my current consulting role, where I'm working, it's 3 days, 2 days at home. There's flexibility. So I think that will evolve and the challenges will continue. And as you said, you've got the 9-day model going through. You've got even people looking at it saying that you could do 2 weeks from anywhere, which is great as long as you have work permit, because it opens a whole lot of kind of worms. Permit, tax, the cyber aspect of it. So there is so much to consider.
There is.
I hope that answers your question.
And what advice would you give to companies who are experiencing, obviously, remote workforce, diversity, equity, and inclusion, some of the areas that we've just touched upon? What advice would you give? You've got any tips as to how they tackle these challenges?
So absolutely. So I think the first thing is to embrace flexibility and trust. You've got to be able to trust your colleagues, your staff. Design policies and empower your employees to work in ways that suits their needs, whilst also meeting the business objectives. Because ultimately, I always say, it's not the quantity, it's the quality. One could put in 60 hours and still not achieve what you're expecting. So embrace the flexibility, double down on company culture and employee experience. With less in-person interactions, you can still do that. At the start of the pandemic, we were doing yoga classes on Zoom. We were doing wine tasting, so the delivery would end up in everybody's home addresses, whatever they ordered. We did that. So there are things that you can do. So less in-person interactions, be intentional without reinforcing your values and creating meaningful connection. Then invest in learning and development, helping employees to continue to grow their skills and adapt to the changing needs. Now that goes into your upskilling. Prioritize the well-being. We do, but and I know well-being is on everybody's radar, but how much of it do we really truly believe in that work-life balance? Recognize employees' happiness and directly impact with the productivity. I say to my team, I have no issues. You want to drop a kid off at school, whatever. I don't manage your work, how you do the work. You manage your own time as long as you deliver. But at any stage, if there's anything that gets dropped, just let me know. Leverage the technology. I mean, we are now looking at so much technology there. Again, I'm really into all the tech. I think for the job that I do, I'm quite tech savvy in my current role. I had my boss had said to me, "You really into all this AI and ChatGPT?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Got to be up there, know exactly how and what." So using those digital tools to enhance the collaboration and streamlining our processes, I think it's quite important. Also being mindful, not everybody wants that. So not to overload where you pick up that you
Yeah.
need to pause, you slow down. And communicate openly and frequently, be transparent and building in trust during the times of change. So as you're going through that change, be transparent. The change and the uncertainty, because uncertainty can do a lot of damage. But if you communicate and if you are transparent, you can achieve a lot more.
Very true. What do you think will be a priority for senior HR leaders over the next few years? I mean, we've touched on a few there, but any that you consider would be a high priority?
I think workforce planning will be one. With the talent for strategy for future of work, what does that look like? Because that will continue to evolve. Leveraging on AI is another one, certainly within the HR field. People are very nervous. It's like, what if something goes wrong? So I think leveraging whilst prioritizing the human element of it, because there are so many tasks that can be done. Building an adaptive and resilience in the organization. With this change comes, if you're not strong enough to be able to go with that change, then that can create a big challenge. Developing inclusive leadership capabilities throughout the organization, aligning HR strategies with also, I'm very close to ESG, the environment, social governance goals, because DE&I, ESG, mental health, they're all in the same bucket as I see it. And I think that's important. And then employee experience in this hybrid distributed workforce. And now people are saying they're leaving jobs because they want balance, they want to go work abroad.
Yeah.
And more challenges will continue. So I think those are the sort of the main priorities from my perspective.
And what about, with your wealth of experience, what advice would you share with other senior HR professionals, particularly those maybe at sort of head off level who are going, right, one day I want to be a chief people officer? What guidance or hints or tips or advice would you share with them?
Be curious, keep learning. It doesn't matter how many years experience you've got. Whatever your level, there's always continues for improvement. It's the field that we are working in is constantly evolving. So commit to continuous personal development. Build strong relationship across the business, not just in HR. HR's role is not just sitting in an office. It's be out there, understand the business. So HR's impact and amplified when we truly understand what the partnership's all about with other functions and how do they all connect with this jigsaw puzzle, as we sort of call it. Data is a big thing. Using the data for decision. How do you tell a story? Data storytelling. Yes, there is a lot of training out there, but if you understand that core data and how you make those decisions, that's quite powerful. Be the advocate of both the business and employee. Strive to find a solution, the benefit for both, not about where we are here policing the policies and procedures. No, come up, be flexible, come up with a solution. So within my team in the past, I used to always say, if there's a problem, that's fine. Have a problem, but also come up with a solution. If you're not brainstorm with your colleagues, with team buddies, embracing change and innovation, that's not going to change. It will continue to be a challenge for everyone, and be willing to challenge the status quo. But it's how do you do that? And in that process, in that journey, it's to take care of yourself, because you're taking care of the organization. It might not be seen that you're playing that big part, but it is a big part. Emotionally, HR's role is quite demanding to constantly reprioritize, but also your own health and well-being. And the resilience is quite important. If you're not resilient in the current the HR world, you won't survive. You'll start sinking.
You mentioned there about positivity and resilience, and we talk a lot on this Q&A series that we do about having a positive and resilient mindset. And for senior leaders, and particularly in HR, and you mentioned that's quite challenging in the role that you do. You have to kind of put your mental wellness first. How do you do that?
So for me, it's these are simple things that I do. Practice gratitude daily. And in my last assignment that I did, this young person from intern to HR manager to HR business partner, because I used to go on about daily gratitude, focusing on what's going well rather than just the challenges. She actually got me a book with my name written on it. She said, you got me to start thinking about this. And she herself started writing, practicing the gratitude daily, writing it, journaling, which helps. Prioritizing self-care through regular exercise, meditation, mindfulness, whatever you enjoy. Could be painting, could be singing, could be dancing in the rain, could be anything. It really does help. Sorry, you're about to say something.
No, I was just listening to you kind of go through that on the journaling. So do you have a sort of routine that you practice on a daily basis?
Yeah, I do. So I am a practicing Hindu. I became more practicing Hindu after my mother sadly passed away. I became more sort of spiritual as well. Every morning, I do my prayers, and then after my prayers, I do mindfulness. And every evening, I go through the same thing. I do my mindfulness. But throughout the day, I do mindfulness in a simple sort of moment, 30 seconds. It could be you're washing your hands. Feel that soap around your skin. Feel that warm water. So it could be a 30-second, or even in the morning, you're brushing your teeth. Focus on that toothbrush around every corner of your tooth. I'm probably talking nonsense here, but those little mindful moments help. You're in a supermarket queue. It's a long queue and you're really in a rush. How do you focus? Or it could be anything, to do short mindfulness sessions throughout the day. That's my sort of routine. But I also am quite lucky that I have a very strong network, personally and professionally. Personally, my father is my mentor. He's 86. He has lots of health issues. I try and go and see him every evening. When my mother was around, I'd see her in the morning and evening, because I live quite local to the family home. And I take him out for evening walks. That evening walk might be 10, 15 minutes. It really grounds me. I spend that quality time. There are times I talk about the challenges that I've had throughout the day, and that's my download. Then I move away. And I often get people come out and say, because I fall asleep easily, my head hits the pillow and I fall asleep. People I've known struggle and they say, how do you do that? And my simple is, there are certain things I like to do that if I don't do that, I have struggle. I go and see my father every evening. Even if it's late, I'll just knock on the door and make sure he's okay. I've seen him. I do my prayers in the evening. I do my mindfulness in the evening. And I will always reflect on my day that I've had, that have I intentionally done something or unintentionally done something. So that sort of helps me. But I think as you move up the ladder, you forget to set the boundary lines. Your job is 24/7. I think it's important to have that balance to prevent burnout. Also remembering to, if you've done something really well, celebrate those wins. And it doesn't have to be a major achievement. It's important. Practice compassion, and try not to get into perfectionist, because perfectionist doesn't exist. In my early career, my manager used to always say to me, work on an 80-20 rule. I was lucky I was given an executive coach, and I fully utilized that, because it's helped me throughout my life. But work on an 80-20 rule. You're not going to be able to fix everything. Reflecting and reconnecting with your core values and the long-term vision, your personal as well as your professional in your organization. If there's a conflict between those core values, you struggle.
It's so true. It's so true, and some really positive rituals and ideas for people to think about there. Joshna, a fascinating story, a very successful career. I'm very grateful to you. Lovely to chat with you.
Thank you very much for having me here.